Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to our presentation on stroke, preventable, treatable, beatable. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual health lesson on stroke, preventable, treatable, beatable. My name is Idlanda Lopez, and I am a community impact manager at the American Heart Association in Los Angeles. I am so excited to be hosting this live virtual health lesson. I'd like to thank Providence for supporting our work to improve blood pressure control and overall health in Southern California. Heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, and obesity are serious diseases that can have serious consequences for our health. Heart disease continues to be the #1 cause of death in the United States, and stroke-related complications are the #1 cause of long-term disabilities. We appreciate you attending today and taking the time to prioritize your health. A couple of housekeeping notes: because we are in a Zoom webinar, your line is muted and your camera is disabled. We will be using the chat feature as well as the Zoom full function to interact with one another. Please feel free to type your questions and comments into the chat. I see that some of you have already typed into the chat. Thank you for joining us. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only. We do not offer medical advice. We can provide resources, but specific questions on the diagnosis, medication, and treatment should be directed to a doctor. So if there are any questions asked in the chat that are specific medical nature, we will have a qualified medical professional follow up with you to answer them. You can also visit us online at www.heart.org for tools, resources, and information about how to stay healthy during this time. Now, time for a pulse check. We want to learn more about your knowledge on this topic. A hemorrhagic stroke is when fatty deposits block the veins in the muscle. True or false? So we have 80% participation, 90 and 100% participation. Thank you to everyone that answered results. We will let you know the correct answer shortly. Now let's get started with the second question. In the last month, have you consumed foods that are high in fat, such as red meat? So within that second poll question, you have 0 per day, 1 to 2 per day, 3 to 4 per day, 5 or more. So I will reread the question again. In the last month, have you consumed foods that are high in fat, such as red meat? So we have 30% participation, 40%, 50, 60, we're almost to 100, 70, 80. And thank you to everyone who answered. Next slide, please. So what is a stroke? A stroke happens when there's an interruption of the blood flow to the brain. About 9 out of every 10 strokes, 87%, are caused by a blockage. A stroke caused by a blocked artery is called an ischemic stroke. When the part of the brain that's affected by the blocked artery can't get enough blood to oxygen the brain cells in that part of the brain die, causing a stroke. When you have a stroke, the tissue starts to die around the brain where the stroke occurred because it is no longer getting the oxygen it needs. This makes it critical to get to a hospital where they can diagnose and administer life-saving treatment as fast as possible. With a stroke, every second counts. Next slide, please. What are the types of stroke? We have ischemic stroke, clots, hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding, transient ischemic attack, TIA. So ischemic stroke caused by a blockage in the blood vessels to the brain. Hemorrhagic stroke is caused by a burst or leaking blood vessels in the brain. Transient ischemic attack, TIA, or mini stroke is also known as a warning stroke caused by temporary blockage. So ischemic stroke is the main cause of ischemic stroke is atherosclerosis or fatty deposits that line the vessel walls. Fatty deposits can cause two types of obstruction, thrombus and embolus. Hemorrhagic stroke, when a blood vessel artery carrying blood and oxygen nutrients to the brain bursts, this type of stroke is called a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic strokes are less common than ischemic strokes. Transient ischemic attack, often determined a mini stroke, serves as a significant warning. Temporary blockage of blood flow to the brain, signaling a potential full-blown stroke. So let's look a little bit in the 2022 stroke statistics. The number 5th cause of death and a leading cause of disability among adults in the US. On average, in 2019, every 30 minutes and 30 seconds, someone dies of stroke. About 55,000 more women than men have a stroke each year. Do you know anyone who has a stroke? Please share in the chat. Is some population at a higher risk? Black Americans are at a greater risk for stroke than any other race, having high rates of obesity and diabetes, which lead to cardiovascular disease. Hispanic Latinos have some of the highest rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity. They are all risk factors for stroke. So stroke is the 7th leading cause of death among American Indians and Alaskan Natives. High blood pressure increases the risk of stroke. So a normal blood pressure is below 120/80, and people with high blood pressure have an increased risk of having a stroke. Up to 80% of strokes may be prevented. So stroke occurs when a blood vessel to the brain is blocked or bursts. Blood and oxygen flow are interrupted and brain cells begin to die. And more than 1 in 3 American adults with high blood pressure don't know they have it. So at age 50, ideally, cardiovascular health adds to life expectancy, 5.2 years for men and 6.3 years for women. So have your blood pressure checked and keep it in check by self-measuring at home and recording results to help reduce your risk of stroke. So, is stroke preventable? 4 out of 5 strokes can be prevented. I'll reemphasize that. 4 out of 5 strokes can be prevented with healthy lifestyle changes and by working with your healthcare provider to control conditions that raise your risk for stroke. So stroke is largely preventable. You can reduce your stroke, as mentioned, by living a healthy lifestyle. So what does that entail? Controlling your high blood pressure, not smoking, eating a healthy diet low in saturated and trans fats, being physically active, maintaining a healthy body weight, managing diabetes, and drinking alcohol moderately or not at all. So am I at risk? Let's look at the factors of age. If you're older than 55 and up, the chance of having a stroke doubles for each decade of life after your age of 55. Let's think about your family history, hereditary. Your risk is almost twice as high if a parent, sister, or brother has had a stroke. Race. Black Americans have a much greater risk of death from stroke. Sex. Women have more strokes than men. Stroke kills more women than men. Prior stroke, TIA, or heart attack. If you already had a stroke, your risk increases. So it's important to know the signs of a stroke. Do you know what FAST stands for? If you do, please drop below your answer on the chat so we can see your pre-educational information, but we will go over what FAST stands for. So F is the face drooping or loss of vision in one or both eyes. A, arm weakness, numbness, or weakness of the face, arm, or leg. S stands for slurred speech, confusion, and T is time to call 911. So let's review, if you can go back to the previous slide, please, for 14, thank you. Let's review a little bit about face drooping. So if you see one side of the face that's drooping or is numb, ask the person to smile. Is the person's smile uneven? Arm weakness. Is one arm weak or numb? Ask the person to raise both arms. Does one drift downward? Speech difficulty. Is speech slurred? Is the person unable to speak or hard to understand? Ask the person to repeat a sentence like, the sky is blue. Is the sentence repeated correctly? Time to call 911. If someone shows any of these symptoms, even if the symptoms go away, call 911 and get the person to the hospital immediately. Check the time so you know when the first symptoms appeared. If anyone on the chat, does anyone know what causes a stroke? Let's emphasize these risk factors that can be treated. So high blood pressure, as we discussed, tobacco use, diabetes, high blood cholesterol, poor diet, physical inactivity, obesity, arterial fibrillation, and other heart diseases. So these are risk factors that can be treated. So let's discuss Life Essential 8. Follow the latest American Heart Association guideline for stroke prevention and management. So let's discuss eating better. Aim for an overall healthy eating pattern that includes whole foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, nuts, seeds, and cooking in non-tropical oils such as olive and canola. Be more active. Adults should participate in 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous physical activity. Walking is great for moderate levels of activity. Kids should have 60 minutes every day, including playing and structured activities. Quitting tobacco. So the use of inhaled nicotine delivery products, which includes traditional cigarettes, e-cigarettes, and vaping, is the leading cause of preventable death in the United States, including about a third of all deaths from heart disease. And about a third of US children ages 3 through 11 are exposed to secondhand smoking or vaping. Now let's discuss getting healthy sleep. Getting a good night's sleep is vital to cardiovascular health. Adults should aim for an average to 7 to 9 hours, and babies and kids need more depending on their age. Too little or too much sleep is associated with heart disease, studies have shown. Managing your weight. Achieving and maintaining a healthy weight has many benefits. Your body mass index, BMI, a numerical value of your weight in relation to your height, is a useful gauge. Optimal BMI for most adults ranges from 18.5 to less than 25. You can calculate it online or consult a healthcare professional. Control cholesterol. So high levels of non-HDL or bad cholesterol can lead to heart disease. Your healthcare professional can consider non-HDL cholesterol as the preferred number to monitor, rather than total cholesterol, because it can be measured without fasting beforehand and we calculated among all people. Let's discuss managing blood sugar. So most of the food we eat is turned into glucose or blood sugar that our bodies use as energy. Now, over time, high levels of blood sugar can damage your hearts, kidneys, eyes, and nerves. As part of testing, monitoring hemoglobin A1C can better reflect long-term control in people with diabetes or prediabetes. Now, managing your blood pressure. Keeping your blood pressure with acceptable ranges can keep you healthier longer. And ensuring you understand your systolic and diastolic numbers emphasizing the importance of healthy lifestyle and regular medical checkups. So life essential aids is really your key to ensure that you maintain the guidelines within the American Heart Association for stroke prevention and management. Next slide, please. So let's discuss taking these steps today. Before there's an emergency, find out which hospitals in your area have 24-hour emergency stroke care. Always keep a list of emergency phone numbers next to your phone with you, just in case. Print information about the warning signs of stroke. We will drop down in the chat below the link to our website with the warning signs. It could save not just your life, but everyone, your loved ones around you. Now, before we talk about our call to action, let's take a pulse check poll. So for the first question, if we can go back, Matthew, this is pre-educational. We need the post-educational question. There you go. Your post-educational question, a hemorrhagic stroke is when fatty deposits block the veins in the muscles. True or false? We have about 41 participation. We almost get to 100% participation. Almost. Give a little bit of time for everybody to look back. And we have 100% answered. Great. And the correct answer is false. Now we're going to post our second question. Will you commit to reducing the number of foods that are high in fat? Yes, no, maybe. And the high numbers of fat, as discussed, can be not just trans, but saturated fats found in red meats. And we have 100% participation. Thank you. Next slide, please. So let's discuss our call to action. Embrace life essential aids to reduce your risk of stroke. So some of the life essential aids we discussed was physical activity, managing blood pressure, managing your blood sugar, control cholesterol, managing your weight, getting healthy sleep, quitting tobacco, being more active, and eating better. So as discussed, the different types of tobacco just are not cigarettes, but they also fall under the category of e-cigarettes and vaping. I really like to emphasize that because sometimes vaping is disregarded within our community as not being at risk, but it does fall within those risk factors. So understand that even secondhand smoke or vaping is also putting you at risk. So understanding how to reduce that of stroke is important, and healthy sleep, too much or too little, is vital. Managing your weight, making sure you understand your BMI, and ensuring you control your cholesterol, your blood sugar, all the great things we discussed during Life Essential Aid. Now, learn the fast warning signs of stroke. Now, I know I asked the group earlier, what are the warning signs of a stroke? But if you can drop down on the chat and discuss what you learned about FAST, and I will go over again those warning signs because it is crucial to understand that it is something where timing is of the essence. So what FAST essentially stands for is face drooping or loss of vision in one or both eyes. A, arm weakness, numbness or weakness in the face, arm or leg. S, slurred speech, confusion, trouble speaking or understanding. T, time to call 911. If If you or someone is experiencing one of these symptoms, call 911. Time is brain. And if you wait, remember that time lost is brain loss. So share what you learned with at least 5 of your friends or loved ones. Tell them about what that stands for and the importance of calling 911 immediately. Next slide, please. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank the American Heart Association team working behind the scenes who helped coordinate this program, and a special thank you again to Providence, our local supporter in this important hypertension initiative in Southern California. Additionally, I'd like to invite you to our next virtual health lesson on December 12th at 12 p.m. There's a link to register in the chat, and we'll send out the registration link via email. We hope to see you at our social support circle. We'll be sending a follow-up email with the link to register. We would appreciate your feedback about today's health topic. Please take a minute to complete a short survey that will appear when you close out of Zoom. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.